Hi folks, welcome back to my channel. In this clip I'm going to analyze the footage from the final experiment and to see what it reveals. I want to ask you a question before we start. If I deceive you, is that your fault? When you lie and deceive others, is it just idle talk? So what do you think? So in this clip I want you to pay close attention so that you're not deceived. You need to reason and think for yourself. So here's the point. Look, if you're calling God the Creator a liar, then what amazing proof do you bring to the table? What is your evidence? Because remember, the Bible says that the earth cannot be moved. So today people believe we're living on a spinning ball. And the South Pole plays a crucial role in that illusion that we're living on a spinning ball. If there's no South Pole, then there's no globe. There's no ball earth. And if the evidence presented for the globe is fake, then obviously the globe must be a lie. So let's look at the final experiment. As I understand it, there were already people on site. So why didn't the people already on site post videos of the 24-hour sun? Why would you need to remove all these potential witnesses and then send in a film crew? It simply doesn't add up. For years, people have been at this site. It's supposed to be on the South Pole. There would have been hundreds of people there posting footage of the 24-hour sun in the Antarctic. Yet none of them did that. They needed to send in a film crew in December last year. Tells me there's a problem. So it's not the first time that they faked the South Pole. If you go out to film a volleyball competition, right, and you come back with one picture, and that's the picture, it's the picture of the volleyball, and it's cropped like that, why would you do that? Because you could have taken image of the volleyball game. Now the same applies to the ball earth. This image, right? If you're in a position to take this photograph, then you're in a position to take the photograph on the right. If a clown came back to you and he says, this is the picture I took because I was in outer space, that's a cropped picture of it, there's a problem. It's logical. This clown is lying. So you just use simple logic and you work it through. So look, Apollo 17 in 1972. Remember, they went to the moon and they came back and they gave us this picture. So why was this picture so important? It was because they had to convince you the earth's a ball, and to do that they needed the South Pole. So let's think about it logically. Right. Why is the South Pole so important? So we're going to look at this quickly and then we're going to look at that free footage. But I want you to understand why the South Pole is so important, because it doesn't exist. They need to make the South Pole a reality. So if the Apollo missionaries were coming back from the moon, right, and their time and their fuel was so critical, where would they have needed to be to take that image? They would be hundreds and thousands of kilometers off their path. Right? So if you're calling God a liar, what amazing proof do you bring? Because if it's a clown show, then you're obviously lying. Right? We want to see legitimate evidence. We don't want a clown show. You can take your clown show bullshit and piss off. Not interested. Right? So here's the point. The clowns must prove that the earth is rotating, that the sun is standing still, and thus the earth is a ball. And so to do this, they needed the 24-hour midnight sun in the Antarctic. Right. So what does the footage reveal? So let's look. This is the footage we're going to analyze. We're only going to analyze this one clip because this is all we need. So this footage is going to reveal a lot of things. So we're going to look at a few things. A hyperlapse to frame rate playback issues. We're going to look at no parallax, indication of 3D manipulation, or CGI or psych is used. Spatial bending, it's an indication of 3D manipulations, whether it's CGI internally or an external psych. And then clipped video levels, also an indication of 3D manipulation and CG and a psych. So there's a few things we're going to have a look at. So let's have a look at the first one, a hyperlapse. So what is a hyperlapse? A hyperlapse is a time lapse, but the camera is moving. A time lapse is when the camera stands still. A hyperlapse is when the camera moves. Now, the footage that they provided is not just a time lapse, it must be a hyperlapse. So here's an example of the hyperlapse. So I can say I can see the camera moving because the footage is moving. It's obvious. So they're keeping the building still. But in doing that, there's parallax shift. It has to be because the camera is moving. So to illustrate it, I've got a rotating platform. I've got a camera and I've got a motorbike. Now that motorbike, no one's riding it. It's standing still. The camera's not moving, right? But the platform that it's on has to move because that represents the South Pole. The street lamp represents the sun. So the circumference that they would have to travel would be 9,000 kilometers. In 24 hours, that means your camera is doing a speed of 375 kilometers. So from the perspective of the camera, that's what must happen, because remember, the camera has to face the sun. So what would the motorbike speed be? Well, it would be over that. It means double that. That motorbike, remember, no one's riding that motorbike, but from the reference of the camera, that motorbike speed would be over 700 kilometers an hour. Right. So they want you to believe that they were doing that speed, and there's no lens dirt, no wind, no nothing. Now, when you squeeze that time into 1 minute, you've got a speed factor added onto that of, it's a speed factor of over 1,000. So, in practical terms, the camera's moving faster. In other words, the motorbike's moving faster. It's not possible. If the camera's moving, it's not possible for you to take the footage that they've given us. Because remember, the earth has to move, because for them to film the 24-hour sun, the earth must move. The camera must face the sun. So there must be parallax shift, like you see in this image. So now they're going to say, well, you see, we used a 360 camera. Well, nothing changes. Those factors that the camera must move because the earth is moving doesn't change. So keep in mind, remember, for them to see a 24-hour midnight sun in the Antarctic, they must prove that the earth is rotating and that the sun is standing still. So we've looked at hyperlapse. So it's not possible, right, for your camera to move at that speed, because all the other elements around about you must also be moving at a phenomenal speed. Right? The fact that you can do a time lapse means that the earth is not moving. And if the sun is standing still, you would never be able to capture the sun. It wouldn't even appear in your footage. So let's look at a 360 camera. If I'm using a 360 camera, nothing changes. What we've already discussed doesn't change. So why? Look, if I put two cameras back to back, or I use a 360 camera, it's the same thing. A 360 camera has got a lens in the front and a lens at the back. So all I need to do is to isolate the footage on the one side. How do I do that? By rotating the footage. So if I rotate the camera or I rotate the footage, it's the same thing. Nothing changes. So don't let them bamboozle you with this bullshit. So let's put it into perspective. They on site at the South Pole, if they've got a 360 camera, right, the camera's not turning here, but the earth is rotating and turning. So all I need to do in my NLE is, that's what they did. They put their footage in an NLE and made the sun stand still, because if the camera is standing still, the sun must orbit around you. So if I keep the sun still, that means the camera is rotating and the earth is moving. It's the same thing. So don't let them bamboozle you. So it's the same as if I'm using a camera, a single lens camera, or I'm using a 360 camera and I rotate the footage to keep the sun center. It's the same thing. It's the same for both. So here's the point. If there is a South Pole with a 24-hour sun, then there must be extreme parallax shift. We don't see that in their footage because the Earth is not rotating, and if the Earth's not rotating, there cannot be a South Pole. So they're lying to you. So is there another way we can put this to the test? Yes, I've got a 360 camera. Remember, no one's riding the motorbike. The motorbike and the camera are just simply facing the same direction, and the platform is turning. Remember at what speed? 375 kilometers an hour. So what I do is I put a table in front of the camera and I put an arrow on the table. So why would I do this? Well, it's to test the rotation of the Earth. Remember, the camera is not turning. So the camera and the motorbike is traveling the same speed. So now all I need to do in my footage, in my NLE, is keep the sun still. And when I do that, what must happen to the table? If I'm keeping the sun in front of me, the table must rotate because the Earth is rotating. Now if you look at their footage, you see the same side of the table, right? Means the Earth's not rotating, and they're bullshitting you because they're a bunch of clowns. They're liars, right? Their table must rotate because they're keeping the sun center in your footage, right? So you can't be at the South Pole with a 24-hour sun on your stupid spinning ball because the Earth's not rotating and there is no South Pole. It doesn't exist. There's an ice wall or ring that is circling the Earth. Because remember, stay focused. The clowns must prove that the Earth is rotating, the sun is standing still. Thus the Earth is a ball. Right. So Psalms 104 verse 5 says, the Creator of heaven and earth said, earth cannot be moved. Now if a human being is trying to move the earth, they're calling God a liar. So all you simply have to do is provide us with the original footage with all the metadata so we can have a look at it. Because the fact is simple that you are lying. So let's look at it from the top. That's the South Pole, that's their site. There's a mountain, they've got their tables. I've got my table with my arrow on it, right? I've got my tripods all set around there. There's my building and my car. The 360 camera is facing the mountain. It's facing the same direction. But the earth must rotate, and the sun is standing still. Right? Now, in their footage, this is what we see. So from the top then, if I'm keeping the sun centered in my footage, that means the camera is not turning, but when I edit the footage, I must rotate the footage so that the sun stands center. Therefore, the arrow on the table and the table must rotate in my footage, which it doesn't. So I'm just illustrating the issue in another way so that you can understand that they are clowns. They're just dumbass clowns. So Isaiah 22 verse 18, it says, God will whirl you around and around and throw you like a ball into a wide land. There you shall die, and there shall be your glorious chariots. Right? What is this talking about? And the shame of your master's house. Right? We're putting these Satanists to shame. And they will die in that pathetic state as stupid clowns. Because they're just Satanists. They're Baal worshippers. Apollo, the sun god. So where is the glory of their master, Apollo or Satan, in this dumbass circus show? Understand, Satan is humiliated. He'll be destroyed in shame, and these people will die in shame. That's what Isaiah is referring to. It's referring at Isaiah is directed at these clowns. Right? So think about it. No lens dirt, no mist, no condensation on your camera lens for 24 hours as you flying around at that speed. Remember, keep focused. That the issue is that the earth cannot be moved. God is not a liar. Understand this. The creator of the heavens and the earth is not a liar. So, we've looked at the rotation of the earth, and the evidence should be visible in the footage, whether I'm using a single lens or I'm using a 360 camera and I'm isolating the footage so that the sun is still in front of me. Now, if we add clouds to that situation, the clouds must rotate around the center axis of your camera because the earth is rotating. If I'm keeping the sun centered, that's what must happen. Right? And if we look at their clouds, you see the problem. So they had to make sure that in their psyche, right, that there wasn't clouds, because the clouds would give them away. So don't think they went there and, oh, it was a sunny day, that they were lucky. No, because it'd be hard to fake that. So let's look at the footage. Right. So the claim here is that it's a 360 camera. The camera must be turning because the earth is turning. And I can see the camera's moving because the earth is turning. Right? So, let's stay focused. If I've got a rotating platform, I put a spirit level and I put a cup. The cup must have a left-hand side and a right-hand side. So, if the earth is turning, what would my camera see? So remember, even if you're using a 360 camera, I just, in my NLE, isolate the sun and keep the sun standing still. Well, the spirit level can't bend around me. The spirit level must turn, rotate like this. You'll see one side of the spirit level, then you'll see the other side of the spirit level. You see one side of the robot, then you see the other side of the robot. The same with the spirit level in the cup. You must see the left side and the right side because it must rotate, because the earth is supposed to be rotating. Right, so we're looking at parallax shift. So let's put it into perspective. Remember, the camera, if I'm rotating the camera or I'm rotating the footage, it's the same thing. Things are in their relative position and distances from the center of the camera. So you must see parallax shift, and things can't bend around you. Right, as we see in their footage. Things will move at different speeds. And the table can't bend. Mountains can't bend around you. They must keep their same. North and south and east and west must be the same. So you see this bending? It's because they're using a psych. So we're going to discuss what that is. So we see footage that is bending. So you see how the footage bends on the left, and as it rotates around, so I can rotate the footage either way, left or right. Can you see how it bends? The sun is bending in their footage. See how the table stretches. See how the camera stretches and bends. Right, so even if they're using a 360 camera, they're busted, they're lying. Now if I bend the footage in the opposite direction, see how the perspective changes? they've bent the footage. Now I'm bending the footage in the other way, and I'm keeping the footage going. So I'm running the footage on the NLE, and I'm keeping the footage. So I've kept the proportion of their footage the same. No bendiness. So they used a cyc. See how the camera now doesn't bend and distort? Right. So the bendy footage shows you that it's fake. So here's footage. I'm using a cyc here, a digital cyc. The footage is bending on the left. You see how the trees bend, and then they squash up to the middle, then they return and they bend back. Right. It's that spatial bending. It's CGI, means a cyc was used. So can we prove it in another way? Yes. So when we look at spatial blending now, and then we're going to have a look at clipped video levels. So how can we prove that they used a cyc? Well, the shadows. So pay attention.
Now when I say go, we both point to the right. Go! Hey, Porcupine, come here. Point to the right for this chump, will you?
See?
Get busy, come on.
Right, so, right. These are clowns, right? They sent the Stooges out there to film the midnight sun. So, the sun can't be in that position, and then the shadow on the buildings be on the left-hand side, and this clown at the table, his shadow's on the right-hand side, and that's your frame of reference. It's not possible. He said, the light is directly in front of you, the shadow must also be directly in front of you. It doesn't matter how far away the light is, the shadow must be in front of you. Right. So the only way the shadow can be on the pointing towards the left on the left-hand side is that it must be stretched across the horizon. So you understand, if the sun is the center and the shadow of the buildings on the left and the shadow of the person at the table, it must be on his right. That must be their position. So what they've done is they're bending the footage on a cyc, and that's how you have those two shadows in that same frame of reference in front of you. So, if you're calling God the creator of the heavens and the earth a liar, what amazing proof do you bring? Remember, the earth cannot be moved. They're clowns. The evidence they bring in is not evidence, it's a clown show. It's a dumbass clown show. Right? And then they bring in their bending sun. Seriously? Is this evidence, or is this it's a clown show? These people are stupid. Dumbasses. Because ultimately, understand, you need to look at the bigger picture. It's about sun worship. These are Satanists. This is their god Apollo, the sun, or Baal. Right? Because they're dumbasses. Right? Right? So I refuse to bow down to Baal. Right? I'm not going to bow down to Baal and his thugs. So what is a cyc? So a cyc, it's called a cyc or cyclorama. It can be created in a physical cyc or a digital CGI cyc. So years ago when there was film, now I worked on a cyc and I worked on a film crew on a cyc. I went to art school. After I finished art school, I went to the military, was an instructor in the military for a few years. When I came out, I went into advertising. And as an artist, we used to paint the cycs by hand. Right? We used to paint them by hand. In some of those cycs, the lighting was so strong because it's so tricky that the cycs would catch a light. You had to have a fire extinguishers at the hand. And then you had to go and touch up the cyc where they got damaged. So I've worked on a cyc by painting them and actually as the film crew. So I understand how they work. So that's an external cyc. So as we move from film to analog to tape, right, they still use those cycs, but when it moved into digital, Right? You could make the psychs out of digital screens. It was easier. So you had to keep the formats the same. In other words, your digital, when you're working in digital, you have to keep the format of the psych the same to your production. Otherwise, everything gets distorted. Right, so let's look at a CGI psych. So that's, you have to keep your proportions the same for your CGI and your psych. Keep the formats the same, otherwise they're going to be distorted. So, right, so the Mercator map, all the Mercator map is, it's an equitriangular map on the same principle. It's designed to be bent and curved. An equitriangular image in those proportions, in those digital proportions of 360/720. So I can take this image, it's a panorama, but I'm keeping it in those same proportions as double 360 or 360. So I can take that image, when I put it in a CGI psych, it means it allows me to pan. You see, it looks like I'm looking down wherever I point the camera. Now, when you use a psych like this, remember this is a CGI psych. You have to watch your camera angles, right? Because you want to keep your buildings upright. So you can't just turn your camera willy-nilly, like there the buildings are falling over. You got to keep your camera vertical and then pan and turn and change the angle of your psych, because otherwise people will get sick. If you put this on a movie screen, right, so I've filmed TV commercials, I've filmed productions for television, and I've filmed content for movie theaters. If you do this, the people in the theater will get sick. So you can't do this. You have to keep your buildings upright. Right, so that's used for a psych. If I changed, here's another image, right? Same principle. Right. I can warp this. Right. Must be the same principle. Right. So you see how it stretches, bendy, compacts in the front and then stretches back as it moves out. That's a psych. It's a CGI psych. Right. We see the same in their footage because it's fake. Right. God's not a liar. They are the liars. Right. So let's talk about clipped video levels. So what are we talking about? Well, when you're working on a psych, you need to understand something, that the people who set this up, they're all experts in their own field. You can't just get any willy-nilly cameraman. That cameraman, he understands the lighting. It's got to be perfect. The cameraman understands his camera. His exposure has to be spot on. There are lighting crews who would come and light up. You can't just get a bunch of clowns to go and film on a set like this. The guys who are doing the digital psych, their gamut must be 100% on point. So I can film a shot and then render that shot out and then play it out onto a digital screen, and that's my psych. But when I play it out, I have to make sure that my screens are calibrated. Otherwise, what's going to happen? Your footage your shadows are going to come out blue. Your shadows will come out blue. And your images are going to be clipped. So if we look at their image, we look at the RGB, it's clipped. It's pushed up and it's truncated. These are the problems you have when you work with either rendering out on a CGI psych or you're working on a literal psych. When we compare that to normal footage, You look at their colors, right? You still have your reds, your blues, your yellows. Must be normal, right? If it's sunset, it must be normal colors. So in this one, the blue is a bit truncated. So the guy must have so the person color graded the snow, probably wanted to get a nicer look. But in doing that, you're clamping down on your blues. But when you look at their footage, it's complete bullshit. Because they're amateurs, they're clowns. Right? And so these are just idiots. So, look, there's a cool clown snow show, right? Slavas, right? On the left is Slavas, very cool. Right, so I went and filmed him for television production when they were doing their world tour. I had the pleasure of filming them and interviewing them and creating content for television and for advertising. Cool clowns. Now on the right we have the dipshit clowns from the South Pole. A bunch of flippin' morons. A bunch of idiots. A bunch of idiots, and that's why their shadows are blue, because they're dipshits.
Del mio giardino sullo stelo serechinato ed ascolta intimidito la tua favola corrata sopra i rami del gran pino del tuo nido dimenticato so d'essere disperato il richiamo era partito blu
Right, so what was the real purpose of the final experiment? Remember, it's not directed at flat earthers. If you know the truth, you know the truth. If you know the earth is flat, it's flat. If you know it's not moving and spinning, you know it's not moving and spinning. It's not for us, it's for those people. It's to maintain the belief system of the deluded masses by means of idle talk. It's just a show. It's a show for the stupid people. You're not paying attention or fast asleep. Now, unfortunate for them, it's not my fault. If you're deluded, it's your own fault because you're not paying attention. You've got no excuse. But this doesn't mean that the person who's lying to you is off the hook. It's not like that. So they've got their reformed flat earthers at the South Pole, right? They're all saying, oh, look, the earth's a ball. No, these were stage monkeys from the get-go. Dipshit, Woodsit, shit, dip, whatever his bloody name is, and Duran. They're stage monkeys. Right? So look, I don't belong to any religion because I don't need a religion. I don't need a priest because I can read the Bible. I don't need a priest to tell me how to pray to God. I don't follow any man. Right? If you want to do that, that's your business. Good luck with that. Right? Because you don't need it. But what you do need is the truth. And you need God's Spirit. So here's a guy, so watch out for the wolves. Right? Here's a guy who's supposed to be a Christian, right? So I don't care what religion you claim to be, but why are you hobnobbing with people who blaspheme God and who blaspheme Jesus Christ, who's supposed to be your master? Right? It's because you're a fraud. You cut from the same cloth. You're a clown, and you're getting into bed with these clowns. So look, whoever you are, you need to be careful. Use your discernment and reason and think. You'll see the clowns. The clowns get into bed together. The clowns don't mind slandering God. They don't mind calling God a liar. They all get in the same bed. So pay attention. Pay careful attention. So look, how do you feel about this situation? When the people who do the crime actually blame the victim. It's disgusting. Right? It shows the evil mindset and the evil heart condition that these bullshitters have. Because it's bullshit. So, only a wolf will say to you, if I deceive you, that's your fault, because it's not your fault. That's another lie. They want to pull the wool over your eyes. If someone deceives you, it's not your fault. And when you lie and deceive others, is it just idle talk? Well, not according to Jesus Christ. There is going to be a judgment day for everybody. You and I cannot escape that. But Jesus said, but I say unto you, that every idle word that men shall speak, they shall give account thereof in the day of judgment. So what was this idle talk that Jesus was talking about? Let's put it into context. What is this idle talk? This is idle talk. It's this. It's the clown show. It's the lies that the clowns present. Right? That's the idle talk. If we put it in context, remember when Jesus was speaking here, he'd done some miracles. The evidence was undeniable. Right? But his opposers came out with idle talk, saying, no, but it's by means of Beelzebub that he'd done these miracles. Why? Because they needed to detract from the fact that he'd done these amazing miracles, which was evidence that he was the Messiah. But they needed to detract from this evidence with idle talk. That's all it is. It's idle talk. Because it deceives others. The idle talk is used to deceive others. Right, so today, people reject the undeniable, clear evidence of a creator and that the earth is not moving. You can see with your eyes that the earth is flat. But they're going to come with idle talk. Ships go over the horizon. What a dumbass thing. And that you're living on a spinning ball flying in a vacuum, which is not possible. Common sense tells you that the earth is flat, God is real, Jesus Christ is real. And we are living in a judgment period. Pay attention, because you're going to have to render account on Judgment Day. So look, I hope this video has given you pause to reason and think. Cheers and thanks for watching.